I mean, Austin's a great city that I've lived in for the last year and a half. So to show it here, like I know the audiences here are pretty diverse. I mean, you can walk in and see, an old hippie wearing like a, little cut-off shorts and a tie-dye shirt, and there's another dude, with purple hair, and then, guys from Dell next to them. Like it's a very, very, I know the tide here is changing of the kind of people here, but it's a great mix of people to show things to and who share some common interests in strange movies.
He sent me an email and said, "Do you want to do a movie about a priest who drops his Bible in the toilet?" So, that sounded pretty funny. And then I think also the metal aspect, like, is so, the opposite of that nice priest man that I was like, oh, that that's going to be funny too.
I worked at a theology school, but I also have a little bit of an interest in like some of the, the black metal, Norwegian black metal stuff. So if that felt like a good, like you kind of have this list of ideas of these are things I want to put into movies at some point or little pieces, and those felt like when those kind of came together, I was like, yeah, that seems to make sense. And then, I knew I wanted Steve to play a priest, and then once we cast Rob, that role was something different, and then the black metal stuff came in with Rob as he took over the role. So like that felt like a good balance of things to have, of certainly like a priest in a canoe and then black metal music playing over it was, then the script kind of wrote itself from there. But
I loved my guy because he was so bitter and so kicked in the dick by life, and had really given up. And, the thing about, I love the message in it. It's like, sort of be careful about finding your heroes or thinking that you should have chosen another path in life, because your heroes aren't necessarily any happier than you are or have it any rosier. But I love that this guy was like, that he was divorced, that he had lost custody of his kids, that he's just sitting alone staring at the walls, and then has absolutely nothing going on. And this guy has hammered him and sent him 50 million emails that he finally just goes, all right, fuck it, I'll go meet him. And then to agree to go canoeing with him is kind of extraordinary. I mean, I was at my wit's end and got seduced by him, by idiocy, in a way.
This film was fun to watch that, like, as we would go from dramatic moments to comedic moments to horror moments, and I want you to kind of, as a viewer, to come on board, ride this thing, and then it just whatever's happening makes sense. You don't know really why it's happening, and then you just get slam dunk into, all of a sudden you're in a totally different place.
We met the day before we shot that. The first scene we shot, which was the diner scene, and so we had just gotten the script kind of like a few days earlier. We gotten outlines and stuff before that. So then we just had a dinner and we went over our lines, and he had a really crazy goatee that was really piercing black, that was scary, but I guess Rohal made him get rid of that because it was.
Yeah. I made him.
Yeah. So we really didn't. But we had a good dinner, but it wasn't like we were old friends or anything like that.
The thing is like, you pray that you're going to have chemistry like this, especially if you haven't really met. Like, we met once really briefly at a reading, but probably said 2 words to each other. And so I called him the minute he landed there, and tried to establish a friendship right away, and I didn't know, because I didn't know him. I was like, Robert, I'm not going to fucking go out to dinner with you. Like, I'm here, I'll see you tomorrow on set. And he was great, because we got the script really late. And I think that part of our conspiracy together, too, was like, okay, we got to memorize this whole script. Like, do you want to run lines? Yeah. You ready to like get together and go back and forth? So I think some of it was panic oriented, where we bonded fairly quickly. But it's a fluke. It's lucky. You don't always, like, you could have 2 people dying to connect and to have chemistry together, and it just doesn't work. So it was lucky, and Todd knew what he was doing.
That shoot took place over 2 nights, and the first night. It's basically the first half of the scene when things are really fun, and it was basically I sat back and let these guys go. We just roll and roll and roll, and then just toss in a couple things. This is what was happening here, and they would just go and riff and riff and riff on stuff. And the second half was when things get really intense, and insane. And that was one of the worst nights of the shoot. I mean, it was just like, it was so impossible to to shoot. It was incredibly difficult to shoot it because it was so technical, and trying to explain what's happening, like, okay, and then these globes come out and these gloves, and like everybody's like, what is, like, no one knew.
It was sort of weird because you read this thing on the script and you don't really visualize it, and then this guy Todd knew these white balls, and he's like, no, this is the volume, girls, and this is the whatever, and anyway, so it was kind of interesting.
Like, no, you're supposed to look there, and then we need this light to be here, and it's like, it has to be so specific because that scene needed to build in a certain way, or, why are you looking at, this, Rico, or Jim, the big black guy, and his eyes are glowing, we need a red light, it's just like, none of it made any sense.